we've been talking more and more about how the left should be strategic in the way it deals with people like Ben Shapiro and other right-wingers who might show up at, say, like a podcasting conference. Maybe it's not a good idea to have a meltdown over his presence because it makes the left look weak and unable to defend their positions. And I don't think we have anything to be afraid of. I think Ben Shapiro is someone we should always want to challenge head on. But that is not what we saw in a recent conference where he showed up because the Daily Wire had a booth, and the organizers of the conference later had to apologize to conference goers who were deeply offended that Ben Shapiro would even be present at the conference. And so Ben Burgess over at the Daily Beast wrote an opinion piece that I love, and it's titled, "Ben Shapiro wants you to be scared of him, so don't be. A podcast convention apologized for the harm caused by the conservative firebrand's mere presence, and nobody's happier about that than him." And he was happy about it. I mean, we showed you how he was bragging about how scary he is and how scared the left is of him. And Burgess writes in his piece, quote, "Shapiro almost never risks talking to anyone on the left who isn't a nervous 19-year-old engaging with him for a 2-minute interaction during a Q&A session that Shapiro's team can harvest and put out as a Ben Shapiro destroys fill in the blank clip. The only recent exception I can think of is a debate Shapiro did with the young Turks' Anna Kasparian. I suspect that Shapiro underestimated her. At any rate, the conversation went very badly for him when Kasparian brushed off his culture war obsessions and insisted on talking about labor unions and economic inequality. Since then, he's displayed very little appetite to repeat the experience. I will say he did reach out to me today, in fact, and asked if I'd be interested in coming on his program, Ben Shapiro's program, for a discussion. We're in the very beginning phases of that. We're organizing it if it happens. And he would require me to go to Florida to be on this special that he's doing. But anyway, I wanted to at least be fair to Ben and mention that's a development from literally today. But nonetheless, Cenk, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love that quote. It's one of the most accurate quotes in media history. He totally underestimated you, and you laid a bear trap for him. And look, this is your overall thesis for all the right wingers, and you're absolutely right. If once you move them off of their culture war stuff, they have no economic positions. All their positions are for the rich and the mega rich. And so, and when I did a breakdown of that debate, I pointed out that every answer that Ben gave was from the perspective of the already incredibly wealthy, right? He would say, like, of course, you want to encourage people with millions of dollars to start new businesses so they can make more millions of dollars. Really, that's our number one concern in America. That's a concern, but I don't think it's the top concern for most people in the country. And so they don't want people to know that they're for lower wages, they're for less healthcare. They're not for the paid family leave that Americans love. We can go on and on. Their positions are deeply, deeply unpopular. So when you moved him onto those topics in your debate, yeah, he was in a really bad shape. And by the way, the debate for everybody who watched it was really cordial, and I liked that it was cordial, and they had a real, exchange of ideas. And when you watch it, you walk away thinking, oh my God, the right winger is not for me at all, right? And Anna's points on the, on economic issues were devastating.
Yeah, and look, I want to say this. I definitely disagree with Ben on a lot of things, but what I think there's a difference between debating a conservative who actually believes in his positions and isn't like debating in bad faith versus debating a huckster, right? So like, I think like a good example would be like Milo Yiannopoulos, right? Like, why wrestle with a pig, right? Like what's the point of debating that? Whereas with Ben Shapiro, he has built a giant loyal audience that hears one perspective and one perspective only. He was super respectful during our debate. Like he didn't get nasty with me, I didn't get nasty with him. And I felt like it was a genuine exchange of ideas and disagreements. And I think that could actually be helpful. Not because I'm gonna convince, like, you're not gonna convince everyone in his audience, but you're providing a perspective, again, that they likely haven't heard before. So if you're confident in your views, if you have the receipts to back up what you're saying, the evidence to back up what you're saying, and you can speak confidently, you could rebut his arguments confidently, there's no reason to be afraid. And even if you can't do all those things, even if you're uncomfortable debating, you don't want to counter some of the claims that he's made, that's totally fine too, but be strategic in not making the left appear as if it's afraid, as if they're afraid of Ben Shapiro because he's such a mastermind in politics.
Yeah, so look, Anna and I have debated some of the biggest right wingers out there, and it was all, I think, honestly, and you can watch all those debates, relatively easy. So both her and I debated Ann Coulter, I debated Dinesh D'Souza. I just watched those debates. It's not even close, right? So, but what was interesting is I debated Tucker Carlson, and he pretty much surrendered. He didn't fight me on any of the issues. It was really interesting. That's why some of those debates are worthwhile. And you begin to get a better sense of the person when you engage in those discussions. So in my debate with Ben, I think that a lot of people didn't know that he's for money in politics. He thinks that campaign contributions, what every other American, including right wingers, including his audience, calls bribes. That's the swamp. That's the Trump won on Drain the Swamp. And Ben loves the swamp. He wants more money in politics because who has the money? The rich people. And his whole show is structured around making sure that rich people get richer. So that's the whole point of the show. So if you force him on those grounds, he's in a world of trouble, and he doesn't have to get nasty or personal. It's just his ideas suck. Or maybe you like his ideas. Maybe you think, oh my God, if only the rich were just a little bit richer, everything would be great. Okay, then have at it, Hoss. Okay. And you're on that side. But Anna, because you guys had that debate, I read about more of Ben's points, and until today, and this piece that we're talking about in the Daily Beast, I didn't know that he had said that gay people, or I guess gay men in specific, should bury their feelings and just marry women, and that would be the moral position. Yeah, like do people in his audience know that? That's mental.
Man, it really is a messed up position because it's like victimizing two people at once, right? Like forcing a gay person to marry a woman that he's never gonna feel attraction toward. Ugh, and then the woman, I mean, think about how torturous that marriage is. Women can feel things, we can tell if the guy isn't into us. Like just terrible, absolutely terrible. And then if they have kids, it's just, yeah, I don't agree with that position at all. I think that's a terrible thing to want people to have to go through.
Yeah, and finally, to the point of the original story, don't ban him. It just makes him a martyr and he loves it. And this is not about Ben Shapiro, all the right wingers, unless they're saying things that are like actual calls for violence, which unfortunately happens all the time on the right now. But to the best of my knowledge, Shapiro does not do that. If they're having a normal conversation, progressives should be super happy to debate them. And then eventually most of them will run away like Crowder.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.